That's the first question. Is making a supply chain circular, does it make it also sustainable? That's the question. No? Yeah. The effort that it takes to reuse the things, to recycle the things, it's much more expensive. And yes, thank God we have some electronic people here that can help us. For other material, it's easy to take value out of them. In electronics, as you are saying and you are confirming, it's much more difficult. So making the supply chain circular doesn't mean necessarily that it's becoming sustainable. That's one thing that one learning objective met right now here. Okay. So we've answered that. Actually, it was going for this. The answer is not per se. Material loops assist the transition sustainability. The loops are assisting, but they don't guarantee that. Circularity could result to increase the lifespan materials and reduction of natural resource consumption. Although the burdens from required recycling process should be assessed. You need to consider what burdens or impact the recycling process introduces in there. Oh, well, this is typical. I think we all know, and Eurocorp has done a lot of work, not only for that. Do you know if there is any obligatory framework for EU companies for tracking and assessing the sustainability performance of their supply chain? Most of you are coming from companies. Do you know if you are obliged to follow some rules? Well, you are obliged. Well, not really. It is rather recent. We have the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive and the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. They are forcing mainly, they are targeting mainly big companies to come up with sustainability reports. And they are not obligatory for SMEs. They are becoming obligatory if they are supplying big companies that need to report, and in their report they need to include what happens into their first tier suppliers and so on. So yes, there is a regulatory environment. It is in the making. It's going to be more and more demanding. So people need to be present for that. Okay, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive establishes guidelines for the reporting, what needs to be the reporting, and the main goal there is to assist consistency between the different companies, making sure that everybody reports the same thing so we can have comparable results and consumers can tell which one is doing what. I'll go to that. Comparing the two directives. One is focusing on corporate reporting. Big companies focus on anti-greenwashing and transparency disclosures. The greenwashing is a term that comes with sustainability. Taxonomy, the European taxonomy is there for that. Double materiality assessment, it considers the entire value chain. This is where the smaller companies coming in. Both directives are considering with data granularity for supply chain traceability and transparency. Requires climate transition plan to be in place. You need to have that submission via the European Single Access Point, something like the portal that exists for the projects, and so on. The other directive focuses on due diligence processes, focuses on adverse impacts on the environment and human rights. It's conflicting. Probably you meet a target, but you lose something else because you're doing what you're doing. Requires mitigation of negative risks and, of course, change of activities. Some concepts from the greenhouse gas protocol, scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. Scope 1 is the narrow. You are focusing on the organization itself and what kind of emissions it's producing. directly controlled by the organization. Scope 2 is referring to emissions that are created from the power suppliers to the organization on hand. And scope 3, it has to do with it expands the picture. It goes to the users of the product and how they're using that. So, for example, in INPERSO, we have the heat port. The heat port, all the emissions during its production is in scope 1. What happens when somebody's using that is on under scope 3. Interesting to see that embodied carbon is what it's interested, and it considers the whole life cycle. This picture is the same with previous in a schema. You see the arrow in the middle. It's scope 1. It's the reporting company. The scope 2 and scope 3. Scope 2 is mainly for upstream activities, the energy that is produced to have the company, the reporting company running. Scope 3 refers to the whole supply chain and the use of the material. Now, okay, the slide does not work with that. I hope it works with the other one, but okay, we can answer. Which of the greenhouse gas protocol scope emissions have the larger contribution in supply chain environment impact? I mean, consider the company that is reporting something, the company that is producing energy for the reporting company, and then everybody else that is involved in the supply chain and the use of the product. Where is the most of the energy, most of the emissions produced? Obviously, the correct answer is it depends. It depends on the industry, right? This is a typical answer for students, but you are not students. So this is the it depends, okay? You see that in the blue color is scope 1, the green color is scope 3, everything. And the light blue is the energy producer. You see, for example, for cement, most of the emissions are coming for its production. Cement is very energy demanding, as you do understand, you know better than me, and so on. And then if you have it, it is there. It really does not use any energy. It is there. Probably when you need to demolish that, you're gonna have that. And you can see here as for different things, still similar picture than mining, agriculture, textiles. And as we move towards different end products, the picture changes. It's the whole supply chain that really has an effect in the emissions that you have. So supply chain emissions are on the average, if you take the average and you wanted to answer the previous question, only 11 supply chain emissions are on the average 11.4 times higher than operational emissions. The whole thing is 10 times what you need to produce your product. And this is what makes the supply chain, considering the supply chain sustainability, very, very important. Okay, this is a similar picture for that for different industries. How the different tiers of suppliers, well, similar picture, the contribution that they have to different emissions. You can see the energy producers. Okay, that was something that you would expect. Tier 1, the reporting company makes 2/3 of that, and the rest tires smaller things. While in aerospace and defense, the fourth tier users is contributing 41%. Probably these are the airlines, so they are creating much more. They have more need. So, what a company can do in order to improve. There are many things. This is a small list of these things that can be. Selection of local suppliers when this is appropriate. you are shortening the supply chain, so transportation emissions are reduced, at least that. Adopt circular principles and resource efficient business models. Well, this is a little bit too generic, but only start thinking about becoming circular and designing your product so that they can be disassembled at the end makes meaning, and probably we will have the opportunity to see that with an exercise. Adaptability at the production line to resource constraints, non-dependence on critical raw materials. What you said with rare earths, if you can avoid that, I don't know if you can make batteries that can avoid that, or electronics that can avoid that. But anyway, start thinking about that. Probably you can find some solutions at the end of the day. Design for disassembly and reuse. I remember 50 years ago, well, not 50 years exactly, many years ago when I was having graduate studies, it was the concept was design for assembly. Change the design of the product so that it is assembled easier. And actually, there were two fellow students that they had their PhD's thesis on making a coffee machine with no screws. They managed to come up with a design with only 2 screws, I think, if I remember. That was 40 years ago, but it was a case. Now, it's similar. If you design for assembly, probably you're designing for disassembly, but it is something that you need to start. Design for adaptability and product life extension. There are so many concepts, especially in construction, how you can demolish so that you can use, again, the items. Design for repairability. Think of your mobile phones, your laptops. At the end of the life, you create a lot of electronic waste. Strategy for maintenance and the commission process needs to be there applied. I want you to look at that because one of the exercises on this. Okay, this is something like a decision tree. It's a tree where it has to do relates with design for disability, not disability, excuse me, disassembly principles. And these are the different paths that one needs to take in order to put apart 2 parts that have been assembled together. How do you disassemble? And there you can have compatible materials or non-compatible materials. If the materials are compatible, then you have fixings and surface treatment, or non-compatible fixings. First case, path C, path AC is okay. In path D, you have more options depending of if they are removable or non-removable. And then if they are non-removable, which is the bad case, if there is strong influence and there are 3 cases, 2 of them are resulting in something that could be disassembled. 1 case is something where you cannot do that. You have non-compatible materials, again, a similar tree. And if you have that, when you start making the product, for example, the smart window, when you start putting things, or the smart wall, you start put things together. If you have this in mind, probably you could come up with ways to put things together differently, so that when you want to disassemble that, it might be easier, should be easier. Okay, a last word for EU authorities. Well, it's not for us to advise them, it's policy making, and they are very good in that, providing sensitive to business for the reestablishment of construction industry value chain within Europe, the geographical location. I think this is happening. Everybody is questioning the global model. Well, we haven't seen the answers yet, but we're thinking about that. Enforcement and investment in the establishment of legal and efficient collection networks, so that, yes, you collect things that are disassembled and they're there. Okay. At this point, I would like to thank you for this.